Welcome back to Gaelic Games Fan TV. Donegal have beaten Armagh by a scoreline of 21 points to 110. A massive win for Donegal. 3 wins on the bounce now at the start of the Alliance National Football League for Donegal. It's a second defeat for Armagh, and of course their only win came against Tyrone when they were at home. So 2 defeats on the road for Armagh. But yeah, massive result for Donegal in the end. Comfortable enough victory, you would say. Armagh had a couple of moments in the second half prior to the Aidan Forker red card, which was mental in itself, but we'll get onto that in a little bit later. Armagh had a couple of periods where it looked like maybe they were going to drag the game back into it. And as we saw last night, a 10-11 point lead in Gaelic football is very little right now, to be all, in all honesty. Leads can be caught back, deficits can be overturned, and the face of the games can change very, very quickly with these new 2-pointers that are in the system. But look, fair play to Donegal. They were just that bit sharper, quicker, faster. And we saw Michael Murphy return as well. And what a difference he made in the second half, kicking some brilliant points. And his aura, his simple presence rattled Armagh. Absolutely no doubt about it. And it rattled Aidan Forker as well, who ended up getting sent off. But brilliant performance by Donegal in the first half in particular. For the opening 10 minutes, there wasn't really much in it really between both sides. Donegal hadn't quite clicked into gear, you would say, at that moment in time. Darren McMullen with a goal, getting a point as well. Armagh leading early on, and in the opening kind of couple of exchanges seemed to have the better of Donegal. But once Pat Armagh kicks a point on the 11th minute, Donegal just took over after that. The sheer dominance in around midfield, like Kieran Thompson, what a performance from him. Absolutely brilliant in around the middle, time and time again, winning ball. Mark Curran, very good as well. Pat Armagh racing up, from cornerback was absolutely outstanding as well. And Donegal were brilliant. I think they kicked it must have been about 7 or 8 points without reply, like when you count some of the 2-pointers as well. And Patrick McBrearty was absolutely brilliant as well. 6 points in total from him, a couple of 2-pointers in there. Really, really top performance. And like, you're looking at this Donegal side and some of the options that they have in attack. I mean, you have Patrick McBrearty, you have Oisin Gallen, who at times is very, very good. Jamie Brennan, outstanding as well. 2 points from him. You've Conor O'Donnell, you've got Kieran Thompson in midfield, you've got Michael Murphy coming off the bench. Donegal have got some serious options there. From 1 to 15, it's really, really impressive. And yeah, they were just that bit, I think, in physically as well. They looked a little bit ahead of Armagh as well, able to withstand challenges a little bit more, quicker on the ball, controlling the game. Obviously, it looked like, now I don't know, people at the game can let me know, but it looked like there was a bit of a breeze that favoured Donegal in the first half and probably died down a little bit in the second half, so Armagh didn't quite get the benefit of that. But at the same time, Donegal were brilliant, and Armagh just could not live with them at all. The intensity at which they played with. And this is the thing with Jim McGuinness and Donegal, they played like this in the league last year. They just seem, a couple of steps ahead of the rest right now in terms of conditioning, in terms of performance. And Armagh couldn't deal with it. They really, really couldn't. I mean, look, Armagh had some decent-ish performances, I would say. I mean, Darren McMullen scored 1-1. But forward-wise, they were very, very quiet. I mean, Conor Turbot didn't score. None of their full forwards scored. They couldn't seem to get their players into the game. Keane McConville ends up with a point coming off the bench. But generally speaking, it was it wasn't overall the best performance, you would say, from the Armagh forwards, who just couldn't quite settle into the game. But Donegal were brilliant, and obviously Michael Murphy returning. It came at a stage as well where Armagh did start to turn the corner a little bit. Ben Creeley was looking a little bit positive, I felt, in the second half, had a couple of points. Andrew Murnan there as well. And it just, Michael Murphy comes onto the pitch. I think at that stage it might be a 3, 4, maybe 5 point game. And Aidan Forker, I've no idea what he's doing there. I mean, absolute moment of madness, moment of craziness. I understand when Michael Murphy's coming on. You want to let him know who you are. You want to not make him feel so welcome and everything else. You completely get that. And there's a bit of argy-bargy, a bit of back and forth, all love and games. And then Aidan Forker, a bit like Zinedine Zidane, decides to headbutt him straight down the chest, like out of nowhere. And And to be fair to Michael Murphy, he just stood there, which was great to see, because too often, I think, in other sports, you see a man throw himself to the ground in that kind of instance. We do see that. We are seeing that more and more in Gaelic football now. And to be fair to Michael Murphy, if he had gone down, maybe he would have been in his right to, because it did look like a fair smack of the forehead there, into his chest, obviously. But Michael Murphy just stood tall and was basically like to the ref, get this man off the field. And that was just silly, especially from a man of so much experience as well. Armagh captain, leader. You would think, of all people, he would have a bit more cop on and sense in that kind of a moment. And after that, then you knew Donegal were going to slow the game down. You knew Donegal were going to take their chances going down the other end. It would give the team a bit of a lift. It meant that the man who was essentially meant to pick up Michael Murphy, Michael Murphy was now left free in certain moments, because we weren't sure as to who was actually going to pick him up. And Armagh took a while to really figure out who was going to go on him. And Michael Murphy as well, it must be mentioned, like some of the point, I think he finished with 3 points in total. Some, like, the sharpness, it didn't look like a man who hasn't played intercounty football in 2-3 years. The sharpness, the quickness, he almost looked better than he actually looked maybe prior to when he retired or, left the team or whatever it was. He looked very, very good. Absolutely brilliant stuff from him. And Donegal have got serious momentum behind them now, especially when you're looking at the league table as well. A lot of the teams who we expected to win at the weekend drop points. I mean, Kerry lost to Dublin, and there will be another video out about that a little bit later. I was out last night, so I couldn't do a reaction on it. But, of course, we are going to speak about that game. I mean, how could we not? And then, obviously, as well, you had, Tyrone losing today, which was maybe a bit of a surprise. Big win for Mayo. So it looks like Donegal are sort of almost there in terms of a league final. They probably only need maybe 2 more wins to guarantee them a place in that league final. So very, very impressive stuff. And look, for Armagh, I did predict this at the start of the league. I felt like when you looked at their opening couple of away games, which was Galway and Donegal, always going to be tough to get anything from these matches. I did expect a little bit more from Armagh, in all honesty, in terms of attack. As I said, some of their forwards were very quiet on the day. They just couldn't really, they made a bit of a fist out of it in the second half. But I didn't expect Donegal to be as good or as comfortable as they were. And around midfield, at times, they were dominated. There's no other way of going about it there. So, but at the same time, I do think for Armagh, the main focus for Armagh really will be stay in the division, and then you put all your emphasis and focus on that Ulster Championship. And to be fair to Armagh, I don't think this is panic stations or anything of that nature. Couple of big games coming up for them. I'm not too sure who they actually play next week, but I know the week after that they obviously have the Dubs, which could be a big game as well. So, but there we are. We'll run through some comments here. Patrick says, well deserved by Donegal. Dublin is great, says the table. Looks interesting now. Patrick says anything could happen now next week. Will be interesting. A lot of teams in the same boat with 2 points. Patrick says Donegal need to be careful to not peak too early. I mean, look, that is the thing, isn't it? Derry were in this exact position last year, and we all know how their season ended up. And bizarrely, since Derry have won the league, they've actually only won 1 game in normal time after that. And even the league final was on penalties as well. So Derry are, they were a little bit better, I felt, yesterday from what I saw of the game against Galway, but a bit more fight in the second half after a very poor first half. But it is a concern. Look, it's happened. The last 2 league winners have gone on to have poor championships. The difference, I would say, is that I think with Donegal and with McGuinness, this kind of strategy or this way of looking at things has worked in the past for him. And whether we do see maybe a little bit of a drop from Donegal in terms of intensity, maybe after Ulster or maybe in the latter part of this league, that wouldn't surprise me either. I think for Donegal, it's about getting your wins on the board, and then maybe you can start to, rest and rotate. But even at that, Oisín Gallen, I don't think started the opening league game. I think he came off the bench. Michael Murphy's only come back in this game as well. Mark McHugh as well has been outstanding, it must be said, over the last, or Ryan McHugh, I should say, over the last couple of weeks. He was brilliant, obviously, versus Kerry as well. So, yeah, very, very good for Donegal. There's a reason why there's so much hype around them right now. There's a reason why they are one of the favourites for the All-Ireland. And look, maybe there is a bit of concern about peaking too early and everything else. But, the thing is, when they play Dublin and Kerry, and obviously we didn't get to see the Kerry game live, but from watching them against Dublin live and seeing highlights against Kerry, it never felt like they were at their absolute best or at their peak. It felt like they were more at that today. It felt like they were more at their best. And the last two games, they still won, that way. So there we are. Patrick says Mayo versus Armagh should be good next week. Okay, Mayo Armagh next week. That will be interesting, especially after Mayo getting a big win. I didn't see any of that game. But big. From what I heard, it wasn't a great game. 12 points to 10. But look, who cares? If you're a Mayo fan, you get the win, and a huge win as well, given how some results went as well. Gaelic Guy says disappointing but recoverable by Armagh, but Forker blew the game for us. I don't know. I don't know what he was doing there. Don't know what he was doing. Very, very surprising stuff. Dublin is great. It is strange how Dublin winning puts us in such a better place. Absolutely. A defeat, Dublin would have been in and around the relegation places. And watching that game last night, if you had got my reaction at halftime, I was thinking I think we might be going down here. I knew there was a bit of a breeze and everything else. And I think I put out a tweet jokingly, to be honest, that Dublin would come back. I didn't actually think we would now, to be honest. But and we did come back. It did have a making of one of them games maybe where Dublin could turn it around. But yeah, there will be another reaction out a little bit later. Discussing that game. Donegal are definitely favourites for the All-Ireland, says Keane. And James says Donegal for Sam. What a team. Thank you. Jim McGuinness. Keane says a great win for Donegal. And Murphy looks like he never left. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the sharpness. He's ready for the fight straight away. And I think maybe with Forker, it was a case of, Murphy coming on. Forker was battling with him and Murphy was just giving it straight back. And maybe that annoyed Forker a little bit, in that kind of sense. And there was a bit of pettiness there. But look, it isn't the end of the world for Armagh, I don't think. I think next week versus Mayo is a big game, though, because especially with Mayo winning today, you've got no one in this league who's on 0 points. I think Derry are on 1, so I think they're sitting bottom. But if Armagh were to lose next week to Mayo, then all of a sudden, relegation could be a possibility. I think maybe then that's when you need to start getting worried. But there we go. Patrick says Mayo can improve massively from today. A lot of voids from Mayo. Tyrone were very, very cynical. A lot of cards given out. And what a man, Murphy. Absolutely, absolutely. In terms of man of the match, difficult one, probably Patrick McBurty. I think, 6 points, a couple of 2-pointers in there. He was absolutely brilliant. But I think Kieran Thompson definitely deserves a good shout as well. And look, Michael Murphy, who came off the bench, if he had started, probably would have been man of the match. But yeah, do let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. There will be a video drop a little bit later. I'm going to pre-record it, but I'm going to upload it a little bit later discussing Dublin and Kerry yesterday because, what a win it was, obviously, for the Dubs. The first time they beat Kerry in Tralee since 1982, and the first time they beat Kerry in Kerry soil since 2013. I did see a few people getting mixed up with that, but Dublin have won in Kerry more recently than 37 years. But yeah, we'll be releasing that video a little bit later, so stay tuned for that. And if you're new around here, consider subscribing, consider liking the video and all that stuff. It would be very much appreciated. And until then, speak to y'all later.